establish an SSO connection between Google and Blackbaud ID. This is going to be an interactive presentation, so I've got a deck. I'm not even going to keep it in full screen though, because I'm going to be going through and actually establishing a connection live with you during this time today. And so also, if you have any questions, it's a smaller group and we've got plenty of time to get through for me to set up this entire connection. So as you have questions, please feel free to chime in, and I'll look to just answer them as we're going through. All right, so just by ways of quick introduction, my name is John Vogel. I'm the Identity and Access Product Manager for the Blackbaud Sky Platform Solutions, which means that in my wheelhouse is Blackbaud ID, user access, permissions. So essentially who you are and what you can do within the Blackbaud solutions that live within Omnibar today and is on the Sky platform. So you're here because of your shop uses Google Workspace, so you're Gmail, Calendar, Drive, Google Meetings, and then you also, I'm sure, still have other business applications. Obviously, there's Blackbaud, and then any number of other business applications there as well. And which means that without having an SSO connection to us today, your authentication landscape looks something like this, where you're going through the Google account IDP for the Google Workspace, but then you're using potentially a second login for Blackbaud or in your other applications. You might be using sign in with Google there, which is separate from different than when you establish an app, because on the IT and admin side, you're going to be, by establishing this SSO connection, it centralizes the access controls more for your IT department to have greater visibility and control over where users are going and and where they're allowed to access. So next, what we want to do is that we want to have this IDP connection established across not just your Google applications, but for Blackbaud and all of your other business applications. So the same lessons that you're learning here today, I'm taking you through a very specific example of how to establish the connection with Blackbaud. But this process is not going to be too different for other business applications that you might be leveraging today. So what you learn here today, make the case to within your organization to get all of your applications going through a single sign-on to make your lives easier. So what you're going to need to complete this that I'm going to be going through today is you're going to need to have, and if it's not you, just make sure that you're partnering and finding out who at your organization has access to these roles, so that you'll be able, and once you have everybody on a call together or in the same room, it makes it really easy to knock this out in no time. So as you can see here, the 3 roles that are required. One tip to call out here is you may want to establish somebody as an org admin within Blackbaud that's not on the claimed domain. This will help if your connection ever breaks and everybody on the SSO connection is locked out, that somebody that's not on a claimed domain would still be able to log in and disconnect the SSO connection or fix what's wrong with the SSO connection. So let's make it happen. So here I'm going to switch over all the slides. Just show the click path that I'm actually going to do in real time today, and you can easily access this presentation both from DevDay's site, but also directly in our help documentation when you're going through this process. So let's go ahead and click over where I'm in admin, and from there, I went to authentication. So just as a way of showing, if you're just on the welcome page and you click on your hamburger menu here and go to admin, and I'm got access to a number of organizations, but from admin going over to authentication, and then from here where you can see you don't have an active SSO connection, so we're going to manage SSO. We're doing Google Workspace today. So you click here, and before we even go through this, aside from this presentation is also linked right here, developers conference presentation that has the whole click path. This help documentation also shows step by step. You can see how this is a one-to-one for the steps here and the instructions that we go through here. So whether you prefer to reference a PowerPoint documentation or just want to go through step by step within here, you can choose your own adventure, whatever works best for you there. We want to make this as easy as possible. So let's get started. So the first step here is a separate browser. We're going to open a tab for the Google APIs. I'm already signed in through my Google account. And so, right. Also within, I prefer, like, the easiest place to notice your primary domain is just right off of admin.google.com. And excuse me, sorry. And you can just copy this over. So you can see your organization might have multiple domains, but we need to know the primary one to establish the SSO connection. And so then to configure the BBID connection, create a new web application or choose one on your Google domain. So we're going to start from scratch here, and create a new one. Hold on. Let me go back and click on this link again, just so that you can see here. We're going to create a project here. Sometimes these buttons can, when you have the page a little wider, can get lost. But it's going to be over here on the right side to create a project. And then you're going to name it something that's recognizable and you understand what the purpose of it is. So you might be calling it, Blackbaud SSO or something like that. I'm just going to call it Blackbaud Dev Days. This is the 6.8 demo. Organization. Oh yeah. Say June 8. So we will create this new project. It's going to spin this up. Okay. Now we're going to configure the consent screen. So I'll look over back here, create a new OAuth client credentials. So that's actually just a shortcut here. Configure consent screen. This is the OAuth credentials. So you can just click right here. You can also go over here to create one as well, but they make it really easy for you. For the user type, this is internal. External is like if you're putting an app out that people not at your organization are going to be accessing, but that's certainly not the case for establishing this SSO connection to Blackbaud. So you're just going to be doing internal. App name, again, name it something that is recognizable and you understand the purpose of it. You have to establish a user support email that's tied in. That they have to. There should be an admin within that domain. on the Google side so that they actually have access to change anything if needed. Down here, you can enter in, an app logo. You can really customize more of this stuff. It's not required for establishing this connection. For us, we're just going to come down here and add a domain. And the authorized domain is blackbaud.com. Surprise, surprise. Put this in, and then developer contact also. We'll just come back up here, copy. Oops. Vogel. I only copied that domain. Put that in. Oh, left a space in there. Blackbaud.com. I'll just use my regular one. Save and continue. We don't need any scopes for this connection. Within your organization, depending on how complex you want to make the access to the Blackbaud solution, you can add in scopes here, but they're not necessary. So you save and continue. And then we're on the summary screen that just basically summarizes all of the pieces that you put in place, so that you can see, check, make sure everything looks good. And then we go back to the dashboard here. So the next thing is we need to paste the URL into the authorized JavaScript origins. So we're going to copy this over. And if we, let me close that out, sorry. All right, let's actually go through here and show you all the click path that I've gone through so far. So we added the domain in, showing you where to create the project, configuring the consent screen, naming it, adding the domain, saving back to the dashboard. And then under credentials, we're going to create these OAuth client IDs. So back here on the sign-in, we're going to be using this authorized JavaScript origins when we create the credentials. Back here, we create the credentials, OAuth client ID. The application type is you're creating a web application. The name, again, something that is going to be recognizable for the purpose. And then you have this authorized JavaScript origins, which is that URL that I added. And then there's also the authorized redirect URIs, which we have to come back over here and do the authorized redirect. Paste that in. And then we click create here. And then this is the information that we need to share back with Blackbaud. So here you can see we need to know the project's client ID and the client secret, so that when we pass a user over that's trying to Google to authenticate, Google knows that we are a trusted source because we know what this client ID is and we know what the client secret is. Typically, you do not want to share these client IDs or secrets with anyone. I'm just showing them freely here because this is just a demo and I'm not actually leaving these connections live in place. So then the final step here, you want to make sure that you do not skip this step here, or your connection is not going to work, but you need to ensure that admin SDK library is enabled on your project, okay? So when we come back over here, we're done with this OAuth now. And you can come to the library, and if you search for admin SDK, you can see here this admin SDK API, and click enable. Boom. So now you've enabled the admin SDK to work within this project as well. And at this point, you have completed all the steps to configure the connection. So we can click finish. Next, we're going to claim the email domains that you want to have. I'm going to trash that claim domain just to show you from scratch. We're going to claim for this purpose Blackbaud ID sso.com, which is a domain that I created. We're going to start the verification process. And so what this is doing is on the DNS side, so that Blackbaud knows that you have ownership of this domain, we're going to have you put this text record out on your DNS so that we can then go verify. Once you've put it out on your DNS, we can go look at this domain and say, oh yeah, we see that record out there, so you clearly have ownership of it. And this is done as much for your own security as it is for our security, to ensure that we're only redirecting users with email on domains that have verified ownership of that domain to an IDP where they've looked to establish an SSO connection. So the next step is going over to your DNS registry, or your DNS management. You probably use Google domains if you're a Google shop. So in that case, it's going to look exactly like this. It's possible that maybe you converted to become a Google shop later and you still are managing DNS through another provider for some reason. It's totally fine. You know, the access to get into the DNS might look a little bit different, but what will remain the same, and I'll just create a new record here again from scratch. All the fields required here are universal, regardless of what DNS application you're going to be using. So on the Google side, we don't have to enter the domain because by default, it just puts that in there. If you have multiple domains, you're going to have to confirm which one that you're doing it for. We're putting a text record just out there, time to live, value, and then put the unique value in here, save that. And then we come back over on the Blackbaud side and click verify. And you can see that we went out there, saw that the value is there. So now at this point, we've configured the connection, we've claimed the domains, so we're ready to test the connection. And at this point, still, you're not impacting any users at your organization in production that are signing into Blackbaud. That won't happen until we turn on the connection. And before we even allow you to turn it on, we make sure that you verify at least one person is able to successfully sign in. So if you copy this URL and go out to an incognito window, paste it in, and then before I enter that in, just to go back over to this presentation and show you again, the steps that we've been going through in real time, again, are all right here in the presentation. And I've shown the side by side of, like, here's the Blackbaud screen where you need to paste it in. and vice versa, coming back in, going through to the library and enabling the admin SDK API, and then finishing off, claiming the domains, showing all of that. And in this one, I actually showed in the presentation, I actually show from Google Admin how you would even go over to your DNS. If you've never actually gone over to the Google domains before, that at least if you're on the admin side, there's a click path to get there as well, and just showing all the specific click paths there. So at this point, then we're ready to go through, paste that, and test it out. So I'll show you here. Vogel sso.com, and we're redirected over to sign in. So you can see here, users will see the name that you put in place. So they recognize, like, okay, they're gonna be signing into Blackbaud, and that users are made aware that we're gonna share their name and email address, language preference, and profile picture. That's also another thing. The profile pictures will come over as well. So that on the Blackbaud side, you'll see the avatars with their images there. So we can click next. I'm gonna put in my password here. Next. And you can see that I've made it through to the welcome page. So at this point, I've successfully signed into Blackbaud through the new SSO connection that we created. Let's go ahead and sign out of that. Come back over here, and if it's still showing 0, if you just click refresh, then it'll show you that there's one user. You can, to build confidence, if you've had to partner within your organization across multiple teams, you can all sign in, and it'll keep counting up however many people have signed in. It'll keep a tally of all the unique people that sign in. So at this point, we're ready to turn it on. So we click learn about turning it on. Before you turn it on, it's always a good check to see, on this domain, there's not a lot of people that are going to be impacted, but at your organization, say you have 50, 100 or more users in user management at Blackbaud, we would list everybody out here that's authenticating on an email that has that claim domain here, so that you're aware of everybody that will be impacted before you turn it live. And you can choose to automatically, we can fire off an email just to let them know, like, hey, we turned this connection live. So you don't even have to worry about that part of the change management process. You can just let folks know that once you turn it live, that you're going to have an email sent out, or you can, send a follow-up yourself as well. So we click connect, and that's it. We're now live with our SSO connection. If you ever want to add additional claim domains in the future, you can easily come in here and do that. And in this presentation, I show what the email looks like, where the user will land if they don't, depending on what their redirect is when they're signing in, they might be going directly into RUNXT or another application, or they might land on the welcome page. This is just the rest. This is the confirmation email that we send out once you turn it on. And that's it, the completed connection page. I also have some slides in here about disconnecting the SSO, but while we still have a few minutes left, is there any questions that I can answer for folks? Hopefully this was, hopefully showed how easy it is to stand this up. One other thing, not that you should or need to do this, but there is also an option to establish an SSO connection using SAML instead of an application within Google. And I have all of the steps in here to do that as well. But I mean, SAML is more of just a universal language that is understood. But with us having a first-class connector to Google, the better approach is just to go the Google application route. It's just an overall better experience, and you can create if you have a Google portal for your users to access applications. You can even add Blackbaud in as an application to be accessed there on the portal, which I don't get into all of that configuration within this presentation. But whoever's the Google admin for you can talk with you about that.